Is it appropriate to use economic stimulus money to do that?
Well, in this case, productivity by enhancing those environments goes through the charts, and that leads directly to our economy and the ability of this region to be viable and create new jobs, create innovation. So in that way, I think really what we would agree on is it's not just about replacing spending and having the Fed pay for it, but rather how can we use this opportunity? The old adage, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. How can we leverage these dollars to transform the way we plan and program, for example, as we're talking about our work environments, our healthy school lunch programs, so that we're linking public investment to do smarter things so that people are happier, living to their full productive potential, as Dr. Thomas said, is more equitable in a social sense in providing opportunity.
Well, let me ask Audrey about that. How do you feel about this, what you're hearing in this discussion now?
Well, I mean, we've had programs in place. They haven't necessarily worked. We've had issues with obesity. Our marketers to blame. I guess I'll take the hit for a lot of the advertisers and marketers. It's true. We've pushed our society, you know, and our kids to the materialist point of view. And as Stephen was saying, you know, I mean, who makes the decision? Are we spending? Did we overspend? Do we not need some of these products we bought? Absolutely. Did we overextend ourselves? That's why we're in this hole. People spent too much. They got houses they couldn't afford. They were buying stuff they couldn't afford. Finally, our society was forced. It's almost like a family budget. All of a sudden, you have to stop. We had to stop spending. We had no, you know, we had no other reason. We had, you know, we're basically stuck. Yeah. And so it's, you know, as consumers, I think this recessionary period is making us all take a different look at our society, our government, our communities, and our families. And
okay, we want to take a short break now, but I do want to come back to the discussion. I think we need to work this out. All of these things that we want to spend money on are good things, but is it appropriate as part of an economic stimulus package? We'll be right back. Stand by.
When people come to Bloomberg Eye Center, they just can't.
Okay, we're back. We're talking about the economic stimulus package, and we're into a discussion now about a lot of good things that we want to happen, but are these good things worthy of spending money from an economic stimulus package? For example, we want to treat obesity, make sure that obesity is not a health problem in our community, but is spending economic stimulus money on that issue or that problem appropriate? Okay, let's talk to Dr. Thomas. You wanted to respond to Audrey, is that right?
Well, you know, I wish I was there. I wish I was there face to face with you, Audrey, because I think this is exactly what our community needs. We must agree. We could disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable.
I agree. No question about it.
Debate that needs to happen. I think this is really, really good. It should be happening in our churches, our civic organizations. So the question is, what do we spend it on? Everybody should be involved in addressing that question. I'm making the case that money invested in improving our neighborhoods, improving the health of our society and the health of our citizens is money well spent. And you can't have a workforce, productive workforce, if they're suffering from chronic disease. But again, I'll make the point that resources put into the National Institutes of Health benefit our region exponentially.
Would you agree, though, that the economic stimulus package is meant for primarily short-term benefit to the economy, whereas a lot of the issues that you're talking about are issues that are going to be for the long-term benefit of the community?
Absolutely.
And there's a substantial difference there between projects that you would like to see done with economic stimulus money that may not benefit in the short term the economy, the bad things that are happening to the economy right now.
Listen, we turn this economy around, everybody benefits. There's a little bit in there for everyone. Even Audrey, there's some tax cuts in there for you, Audrey.
Thank you, Stephen.
There's also some real investment. And I think that's the other way we need to look at this. It's not just money coming down the pike. These are resources to invest in our infrastructure, as Court has talked about, in our healthcare delivery system. And some of the things I wanted, some of the things around promotion, health promotion, and disease prevention were actually cut out for the very discussion we're having right now. Fine, I can live with that. But we need to make sure that this kind of conversation occurs broadly, and that can't happen if people aren't educated about the complexities involved here.
No, Dr. Thomas is talking about an agreeable discussion, even though you have differences in points of view. But I see some really serious political fireworks because of these issues that we're talking about.
Oh, absolutely. And talk about complex, 1,100 pages. I mean, who can get through it and really understand all the ramifications? And my concern, I mean, you know, it's almost like you're a kid in a candy store. We can't have it all. As a society, we've always wanted it all. And so what are we going to do with the economic stimulus package at this point? My concern is that it's going to put us in the biggest debt we've been in the history of the United States. And I don't want to pass that debt on to my children or my grandchildren. My little grandson, Jake, I don't want him to have to pay for the mistakes that my generation made.
On the other hand, people are arguing that if we don't do something about the economy, your grandson is not going to have the wherewithal to do, you know, to buy food, let alone take care of the...
Yeah, exactly.
And Audrey, we inherited this debt, my friend. We inherited this.
A good part of it.
From the policies of the past.
Okay.
The new administration has just been in for, what, 36 days or less? We've got to have a new beginning.
Yeah. Well, this is the new beginning, and there are going to be a lot of disagreements over things like the economic stimulus package. And let me ask Court about housing, for example. You want to build housing, let's say, for poor neighborhoods, to build up the economic stability of these neighborhoods and to provide jobs. People are going to have to build the houses and produce the materials for these houses and so forth. How does that work if we don't have the ability to sustain the economic underpinnings for these things? Once you build the house, you have to maintain it, you have to make repairs and all the... Isn't that going to be a problem?
I think the key is that we need to move from simply these chronologies, these lists of how we're going to spend projects, and instead talk about intent, purpose, vision, and accountability. And in this market today, wherever we can save dollars for homeowners, and that means linking land use planning with transportation planning so that not such a large chunk of our take-home pay is spent in caring for our automobile as opposed to, you know, our kids and our education, so that we're building, in the case of housing, we're using these stimulus dollars to very smartly target where housing should be renovated, and in Stephen's view, resuscitating older neighborhoods with what's called transit-oriented development, for example, where we're using the alignment of public transportation access to nodes of where opportunity should be built through housing and new retail and new business opportunities to create vibrant neighborhoods.
Now, does this target specific geographic and demographic areas? For example, in the urban area, that's where mass transit seems to work most efficiently. Does that mean that housing should be spent mostly in urban areas, or what?
Yes, well, this is something that southwestern Pennsylvania as a region has reckoned with. Our region metropolitan planning organization called the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission last summer approved a remarkable 25-30-year plan for southwestern Pennsylvania, which for the first time acknowledged that our region has been sprawling excessively, a voracious appetite for consuming land and moving further and further from our cities while hollowing out all the 10 counties' older downtowns, and this is untenable for our region's economy. That plan is the sort of blueprint that can provide the opportunity to target funds through this stimulus so that we are rebuilding existing communities over building whole new ones in a region whose population growth is stagnant, and coordinating development along prioritized transportation corridors.
Yeah.
That's smart land use, that's smart transportation, that's smart economic
But you can see the political fight that comes from something like that. People are going to say, well, that's social engineering. Why don't we put money in the pockets of people who will make their own decisions on where they want to...
But the good news is our region had that fight and has already agreed, and the remarkable plan, which programs something like $33 billion over the next 30 years, aside from the stimulus, has said as a region we need to grow smart. So that good thinking has been ironed out in our region through good community input. Now this is the time to apply that accountability to these dollars.
Okay.
And that's one of the wonderful things about this process. We've got everybody involved, and as Court described, we're not going to agree on everything, but there is a process where we can reach consensus. He and I were involved in a meeting earlier this year when the Institute of Politics held a conference specifically focused on our water supply and the conditions of pipes under the ground. I mean, someone has to pay attention to these infrastructure needs, and they've been neglected. Let's hope there's some stimulus money in there to improve the water supply in southwestern Pennsylvania.
We're going to wrap up this conversation in just a few moments. We're going to be back and talk more, wrap it up about economic stimulus. How does it affect us in southwestern Pennsylvania? We'll be right back.
It's really cute. Don't you love the sunroof?
Yeah.
Okay, we're back. We're talking about the economic stimulus package, how it might affect us in southwestern Pennsylvania. As I said at the top of the show, a boatload of money out there. Some people are going to get rich, but not me, I'm afraid. Someone asked me earlier, why don't we just have the federal government take $100,000 or so, pick a figure, and give it to each and every individual in this country and say, okay, go ahead and spend it as you choose, and that would stimulate the economy.
I have also heard people have recommended pay off everyone's mortgage, which would be fine with me.
Yeah.
Just go out whatever people owe
Free
for their
house.
houses,
Yeah.
and that way that money that they would take, $100,000 or more, whatever they owe.
And if people don't have a house, buy them one.
And, well, maybe. But the point is, you know, mortgages are a huge amount of money in people's budgets. So if you can take that chunk of change and allow people to spend it on their family, their health care, you know, whatever they're looking to spend, you know, to me, that I think that would be a great solution.
Donuts and Coca-Cola, what do you think, Dr. Thomas?
Well, you know,
why wouldn't that work? Why is that a bad idea and this economic stimulus package a good idea, in your opinion?
Well, you know, I'm like everybody else in this country. Number one, stunned at the condition we find ourselves in, and looking for a way out. And I will admit to you that I'm stepping out on faith to trust this administration to use the process of governance that we have in this country to map a plan forward for us to get out of this situation and that we can recover. I you know, respect the debate and the politics and the ideology of individual rights versus the role of government, but there has to be balance. And I think that's what this stimulus package has done. It has struck the right balance.
Court, let me ask you, why wouldn't it work to just give people money and say, go ahead and spend it? That would stimulate the economy, wouldn't it?
PJ, that is indeed part of the plan for the 4.9 million Pennsylvanians. The stimulus plan will provide a $1,000 tax break each year. And that compared, however, to the 143,000 jobs that are anticipated to be created out of the stimulus plan, I think I'd put the preponderance of my money there. Today I heard on the radio coming into work that in America today, consumer debt of us citizens of the United States is 100% of our nation's total gross domestic product. And the last time that was the case was 1929. That date sounds alarmingly familiar, and we're not going to use the D word. But hopefully this is a wake-up call. And I think the message is the stimulus package is not going to correct the economic conditions that got us where we are today, for example, the bursting of the housing bubble. The stimulus package, however, provides us a moment and opportunity to course correct if we're smart, and it buys some time to have a national conversation about where we're going. And I would propose that the accountability for all spending includes things like, are we linking land use and transportation and housing with economic development? Are we tying green or sustainable strings to every dollar that's spent, so we're wringing out energy efficiency and conservation and transforming our economy to being less dependent on foreign oil? This is a moment.
Well, let me ask Dr. Guskey, what about business? Is business going to be done differently because of this economic situation we found ourselves in, or is it going to be business as usual?
Well, it won't be business as usual. It will never be the same as it was before. And my concern is if they're going to be paying higher taxes and not getting a lot of tax cuts as they had before, then there's not going to be as much investment in business. And as a result, I think the economy we're going to have some decline for quite a while regarding corporate growth, small businesses, big businesses. One thing we haven't talked about is small businesses. How is that going to affect them? I mean, they're the ones that are, you know, hopefully the core of this region, and, you know, they need some tax cuts and they need some impetus too. And you want to encourage people and let them recognize that I can expand my business and I can grow and I'll be able to reap the benefits, and I don't have to be concerned that I'm going to be constrained in any way, whether it's taxes or any kind of government programs.
Are there going to be more jobs in southwestern Pennsylvania after this the stimulus money comes through in the next year?
Hopefully there will be, but keep in mind how many we've lost already. So I think we're just trying to get back at where we were a few years ago and just, as Court had said, let's keep everything in balance and just keep us moving in the right direction.
Well, you are fresh out of time, so I want to first thank Dr. Thomas. Listen, thanks a lot for taking time out to be with us on the phone. I appreciate it very much, and maybe we can do it again.
It's been an honor.
Dr. Stephen Thomas and Dr. Audrey Guskey, thank you very much.
Thank you, PJ.
And Court Gold, thank you very much.
Thank you, PJ.
Good conversation, and have we changed any minds? I don't know. But have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you next time.